Hey guys, welcome back to the Paradigm Project. Today we have Sarah Arnesen to discuss with us. I'm Ava Gardner.
And I am not Dallin, but I am Daniel. Dallin had to go on spring break.
He had to.
He had to.
Okay, let's get started. Ms. Arnesen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I'm really excited to do this. This is going to be fun. My name is Ms. Arnesen. I teach at Paradigm. I've taught here for 7 years, and I teach band and orchestra. I used to teach choir, and once upon a time I taught math, but for most of the time now it's just been band and orchestra. And I love music and do a lot of it. And when I'm not doing music, I love to dance, and I love to be outside, and I love to read. What else do you want to know?
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in Pleasant Grove, which is hop, skip, and a jump that way. And yeah, pretty much lived here my whole life. It's a very large high school in Pleasant Grove and nice little town right by the mountains. I went hiking every day growing up.
She pointed southeast. Where'd you go to school, high school or college? Either one, more exciting one.
I loved college more than I loved high school, even though I loved high school. I went to Pleasant Grove High School. Like I said before, it was a really large high school. It was probably about 3,000 students. And I actually just went part-time. Yeah, my graduating class was bigger than Paradigm. Yeah, so I just went part-time. I took a lot of AP classes and a lot of music classes and Spanish. And then I went to BYU, Idaho for my bachelor's degree, which I loved. I loved it there. I loved the cold. I loved my professors. You guys know, I think I've taken both of you to BYU, Idaho, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, we've been.
I love it. And then after BYU, Idaho, I went to the University of Utah to do my master's degree. At both schools, I got the same degree. I got a bachelor's degree in cello performance and then a master's degree in cello performance as well. Cello performance degree basically means I practiced a lot and people listened to me play a lot and judged me on my playing and told me what I was doing wrong and how to be better. And I played in every orchestra possible and took some theory classes and some history classes, but mostly just played the cello for 8 to 16 hours a day. I loved it.
Oh my goodness.
I love being judged on what I do.
It's my favorite activity. What's your favorite thing about your education that you received, from a college, or what you've just learned ever since you've graduated?
Probably my favorite part is the connections that I made. I really loved BYU Idaho, and one of the reasons I really loved it is because I was able to connect with so many professors that I still talk with frequently. It's probably every month I talk to a different professor, and it's really nice to be able to go back to them and get advice and have mentors still in my life as I'm teaching here and still work with them in different ways. And I think in education in general, that's one thing I really value. At Paradigm, I've loved connecting with the scholars here. That's why I love performing and I love traveling with you guys. And even last year, we had kind of a mentor book group that I really loved, a discussion group. I loved the discussions, but the discussions led us to greater connections. So a couple cool college stories. When I was a senior at BYU Idaho, I had a bunch of cello friends and we created a cello quartet and played a cover song from Apocalyptica and decided to enter Battle of the Bands. So we got a drummer. I don't even remember who he was. And we made it through the first round. We were so proud of ourselves because we were just these classically trained cellists and playing hard rock music. And our cello teacher was so embarrassed. He just was so embarrassed that we were doing something like that. And then we made it through the audition round and we made it to the first round. And then we made it to the final round. And we actually won Battle of the Bands. And it was so cool. We played in this huge auditorium and just started playing and everyone started screaming and jumping. And it was amazing. And then we left and didn't listen to the rest of the band. So that's one fun college story. One, though, that is sticking out to me right now, I was really dedicated and diligent in college. I had to practice 3 hours a day. It was part of my grade. And I had to practice 3 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I had this philosophy that if I could be a little bit ahead, 15, 20 minutes every day, then when an emergency happened, which it never did, that I would be ahead enough to not fail my class, because that was scary to me to fail that class, because you don't fail your lessons as a performance major. That's the class you have to pass. So there was one November, it was my roommate's birthday, one of my favorite roommates ever. Her name's Ashley, and she really wanted to go ice caving for her birthday. And so she begged me. She's like, Sarah, you have to take this Saturday off. You just have to come ice caving. My friend's coming in town. He's got a truck. We can get to the ice caves. And I was like, I don't know. And then I finally told her I couldn't because I needed to practice and I couldn't take a Saturday off of practicing. And finally she came and sat in my room one night and said, Sarah, you're one of my best friends and it's my birthday and I want you to come ice caving with us. And so I said, okay, I can do it. And I got up really early and practiced before we went ice caving. And it taught me a really valuable lesson because we got in her friend's truck and it was just gorgeous. We had to drive maybe an hour to the ice caves and it was just, everything was dying. And so it was golden and just beautiful and these beautiful fields and beautiful trees.
Death.
It was like beautiful death though, right? Like the fall, so pretty. But it's like the frozen over, just slightly frozen. And then we went to these ice caves. It's so fun that the cave, the base of the cave, the floor of the cave is made of ice. So you would scoot on your back underneath these crevices. And then we drove home and then we kidnapped her and took her to Big Judd's for burgers after that. But being outside just made me feel so alive. I remember thinking of this poem my mom had made me memorize where it says, "O world, I cannot hold thee close enough." It was just so beautiful to be in nature that I came home, and when I went back to practicing, I had so much more to put into my music. And it taught me that it's really important for me to get out of the rehearsal hall and out of my practice room and do fun things once in a while because we need to experience the beauty of life.
That's interesting. I can get so caught up in like just practicing and like being worried about the next concert or whatever. But yeah, that's like very true.
That's really
to
interesting.
just get out and do something.
So you would practice 3 hours a day, every day?
Every day.
Jeez.
Not Sunday.
Not Sunday, of course.
Not Sunday.
How many hours do you think you still practice, like every day?
Right now, you can actually follow me on Instagram and see exactly how much I practice every day. I post every day. It's a minimum of 15 minutes, and probably a really good day is 90 minutes, and an average day is 45 to an hour.
Do you think you're still getting like the same quality of practice that you were in college? Like, because you only have 15 minutes to an hour and a half every day, whereas you had like 3.5 hours set aside every day.
It's probably better just because the time's limited. So if I sit down and I have 15 minutes, then I just know, okay, I have 5 minutes for this, 5 minutes for this, 5 minutes for this. I don't have 3.5 hours to practice. And I really value the time I practice. And also, you know, it's been just a hot second since I've been in college. So I've learned a lot about how to practice better since then. So I feel like my practicing is probably better. But I did a really good job at being a good practicer in college too. So yeah. But just, you know, being older and more mature.
How do you decide, like, if you have like 15 minutes, how do you decide what is the most important thing? Like, how do you make that like decision?
So Tuesday nights, I rehearse with my quartet and I want to be warmed up for quartet. So I might warm up in the key that I'm going to be playing in. I might go over the hard parts. I might do some drill practice. I might do some intonation practice on the parts I know I'm going to have problems with. If it's a normal day and I don't have a rehearsal and it's just kind of like I just need to maintain my skills on my instrument, I always have like a couple things in the back of my mind. I want to work on vibrato. I want to work on tone. I want to work on my octaves. I need to teach one of my students this, so I need to review it. So kind of just thinking about what's coming up and what I want to improve on would determine what I practice. And then I always do 3 different parts. So I always do the technical side and then the drilling side and then the review, performance, emotional side of it. So if I have 15 minutes, I do 5 of each. It's probably way more than you wanted to know.
You have your life a lot more scheduled out than I do.
I know.
Like 15 minutes, I'd be asleep for 10 of it and then waking up for the next 5.
Well, my issue is I am such a scatterbrain. I'll be like, okay, I have 30 minutes to do my homework. And I sit down and I say, what homework do I have to do? Even though it's like all laid out for me, I'm like, I don't know what to do. And like, it's just insane to me that you can like sit down and be like, this is what I need to do, because I can never do that.
I think the point, though, is that I don't do it when I sit down. The decision is made before I sit down. Here's what needs to happen in the 15 minutes. And sometimes the decision is made the night before. Or when I'm driving to school for the day, I'll review, okay, here's what's happening today. And I know I only have 15 minutes. I can't sleep for 10 of it, or else I won't get my 15 minutes in. And then I have to decide what needs to happen. Or I'll go grab a snack, and as I'm eating the snack, I'll think, okay, what needs to happen in the 15 minutes that I have to practice?
All right. That's awesome. Yeah, when I'm driving to school, I'm usually jamming out to like Katy Perry. Like I'm driving and like headbanging and turning up the bass all the way. But I could work on that
You
a
can
little
do
bit
both.
more.
Yeah.
Not if you're into Katy Perry.
And now we know what you listen to on the way to school.
Yeah.
She just hits different, apparently.
She hits those high notes. It's like,
Daniel thinks I should work on my high notes.
Yes.
Probably.
I should build
and
my
you're Katy
range.
Perry listening.
I can't believe you listen to Katy Perry.
I mean, I can. It makes a lot of sense.
It does make a lot of sense.
Especially with like the shirt you're wearing now. It reminds me a lot of the Roar music video.
I haven't seen that.
Don't want
They're
it.
basically just in a jungle. His shirt is leaves. How do you like build these useful habits?
That's a great question. And I think there's a lot of layers to it,
Yeah.
right? So one thing that I started doing in high school, I had a paper planner and I would sit down and I would schedule everything in it. So that wasn't a really quiet, still moment. This is not meditative at all.
Meditative.
Is that the word?
Yeah, that's the word.
There you go. But I just had a schedule and I really like to get stuff done. And sometimes it just starts with that. And then another really important lesson I learned after I got used to scheduling things out on paper, or you could do it in your phone or whatever. In college, I realized that I remember distinctly this day. I'd walked from clogging class. I did clogging, like the dance clogging, and I'd gone to practice for an hour after that. And then I walked to my class 10 minutes early because I was terrified of being late. And I would sit there and I would write in my planner everything that needed to get done. And then I realized that because I started writing in my planner everything that needed to get done, I would miss the first 5 minutes of class. And I would feel really overwhelmed during the first 5 minutes of class because I realized I needed to do my research paper for my political science class, and I probably should have started 2 weeks ago. And
I understand that. Yeah.
Yes. And so I would realize that I was missing the instructions in the class. And then I would feel emotionally bad that I couldn't dive more into music history, which was the class I was in. And I made a conscious decision. I still remember the classroom and probably the seat. It was like 3 rows down in this lecture hall and I was on the side and I had a pink planner because all my planners have been pink. And I decided, okay, I'm going to be 100% in this class. And if I'm 100% in this class and I take the best notes I can and learn everything I can and listen to the music they show me and prepare for the test now while I'm in this class, then I won't have to study as much later. And then when I go to orchestra today, I'm not going to worry about my research paper or what I need to do to read for this class or the listening I need to do, but I'm going to focus on orchestra. And that was really helpful too, to just kind of plan out, like put my life in boxes a little bit and not let them leak into each other. Very masculine of me. But it was really helpful.
What does that mean? Masculine of you?
I understand what that means.
You should watch the YouTube video.
Yeesh. Okay, can we go back for a sec?
Yeah.
You said clogging.
Yeah.
What is up with that? Like, why clogging out of anything you could have done?
And do you still clog?
I can still clog.
Wow.
Do it right now. Stand up. Clogging noises.
Oh, it's really hard.
Yeah, on carpet. Wow.
Sheesh.
She's straight up clogging right now.
Awesome. We get to listen to that. I took clogging. This is actually a really interesting reason why. So I love being active. In college, you can take a 1-credit class for any kind of dance or swimming or basketball or lots of active things, right? And it's not a hard class to get a good grade in. Basically, you just need to go to class, just try in class, right? And so it helps your GPA. But I knew that if I got myself up at 7:30 in the morning to clog every morning, I'd be up. But if I told myself I needed to go practice at 7:30 in the morning, I'd probably do it for 3 days. And then it would be 7:40 and then it'd be 7:45. And by halfway through the semester, I wouldn't practice anymore. But I would go to my clogging class. And then I'd have the hour after that to practice because I'd already be on campus and I'd be energized and there's no point in going home then, right? So it was almost this technique that I had in college of schedule a 7:30 class so you get there and you get stuff done.
Interesting. So you seem to be very
Freaked out of being late.
motivated. Just do things. And like when you commit to something, you're really motivated to keep doing it. Like what's the point in staying motivated and doing these things?
What's the point in doing something halfway?
Ooh.
Like what's the point of even doing it in the first place?
I hope it's because we enjoy it, right?
Right.
And because striving for excellence and working hard is fun. It brings us joy. We're happier when we work hard.
True. Kind of going along with that, with, like, why be motivated? My question was, how do you like continue to work on like a goal that you've lost all passion for? Because that is literally like the bane of my existence, is I'm like super excited about something and motivated to like get it done. And then like a week in, I'm like, this sucks. I hate this and I don't want to do it anymore. But like I was super motivated like a week before. How do you stay motivated? How do you stay passionate?
That's so interesting. Can you give me an example of a goal?
There was a point in orchestra where I was just like, no. I was just not loving the music I was doing. And I had already set the goals. I wanted to practice an hour a day, and I had all these things. But then like quarantine hit, and I just like, and I got in a really bad bike accident, but that's a different story. And I just lost all motivation to actually like want to play an orchestra and practice and do all these different things. And I think it's starting to come back, but I still feel like that's something I'm missing.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good example. I feel like this happens to all of us all the time, right? We're so super motivated to, I don't know, read a book even, or write a paper, or take a class, or train for a marathon. And I'm sure someone has talked about this that knows more than I do, but I feel like when we start a goal, we're on this high. We really want it. We can see how great it's going to be. We're really excited to get started. And then life happens and we just kind of hit a little bit of a dip. And that could be a really big dip, like quarantines and bike accidents, right? Or sometimes it's just feeling less motivated or getting tired or things get in the way. And I think it's important to recognize that that happens. And that's when sometimes we just push through. Ava, you said passion, and I think passion is a really interesting thing because most people don't feel passion all the time. And most of what gets done by people that we see as passionate people is just habits and hard work. And I would say, for me, all the really successful people that I know who are talented or do really amazing things have moments when they have to do that amazing thing and they really don't feel like it. My nephew is 6. He's a cutie and he does not like practicing the piano, and he's really talented in music. I don't say that very often, but the kid has perfect pitch and can sing anything after hearing it once. And he asked me on Sunday in our family chat, he asked what he can do when he doesn't want to practice. And it was so funny because I had tons of suggestions. We said, eat a goldfish after every 3 repetitions, make it in a game, set a timer for 10 minutes. And my other brother is in a doctoral degree for piano right now, which means he's gone to school for 6 years for music and will go, 3 or 4 more years. And he practices a ton. And he doesn't feel motivated to do it all the time either. And so we both had a ton of suggestions for this little nephew. And I think that's important to remember, that sometimes we just push through because we understand the reward is greater. On the other hand, I think sometimes we have to find the passion too, right? We realize that it's gone and it's not fun to just play music for notes on a page or do anything, right? We don't just read because someone told us to, or run because someone told us to, or play basketball because that's what our dad wants us to do. We need to feel the passion in what we're doing. And so that's when we look back to experiences that we've had where we've had a great time playing the game or playing the music or reading the book or writing the paper or in the discussion. And we find the core of why we're doing it and we push forward for that. And that's something that as you get older, you'll discover, and you'll have, a couple core words that you just know, this is why I do it. Even if I don't feel like it, I know this reward is greater because I've experienced it.
How do you set a goal that's actually worthwhile and is not actually doing damage to yourself?
Goals, we always have to be reevaluating. So, and sometimes we set goals and then we just realize, actually, this isn't as important to me as I thought it was. And that is okay. It is okay to have a goal and learn something. And then maybe one of the things you learn is that that is not a good goal for you. On the other hand, sometimes it is a goal that is appropriate. And we just have to be kind to ourselves and know when it's okay to take a break or take a short day or go to the ice caves or sometimes, just read for fun or just go on a run for fun instead of trying to break your time. Or sometimes on Fridays, I just get home from school and I just don't feel like drilling a billion things and doing all my warm-ups that my teacher wants me to do. And I just play. I just play for fun, for me. And sometimes I open my front door so that my next door neighbor can hear me.
Oh, that's cute.
It's cute. She sometimes opens her door so I can hear her.
Oh,
That's exciting.
a primary question that maybe we should have answered like earlier is like, what is a goal and how do you set one like that you can actually accomplish? Because I think with me, I'll be passionate about, or not passionate, I'll be even just excited about the idea of doing something, being like, or with the, let's use this example. So yesterday we ran the carnival, the Pennyworth Carnival. Super fun, right? And I had signed up to run the cotton candy machine because I was like, that sounds fun. It was not fun
she was
at
stressed
first.
the whole time.
It was terrifying. It was big, it would rattle, and it would jam, and it would smoke a ton. And it was really scary, and I couldn't wrap the cotton candy well at all at first. I was just frustrated. I was like, why did I sign up for this? But it's too late now. The carnival's already began. Nobody else knows how to run it.
I was right there, Ava.
That's true. Daniel knew how
I was
to
with
run
you
it
the
as
whole
well.
way.
Daniel was the exception. But like, as for the rest of cabinet, nobody else knew how to run it. So I couldn't be like, hey, come take over for me because I don't want to do this. Eventually, like, I learned how to actually work it and stuff. But the point of the example is to be like, you know, you have an idea and you think it's going to be super fun and then it isn't. And so my expectations weren't met, probably because of poor planning and poor execution. So how do you set a goal in a way so you can have good execution and good planning? That makes sense.
Yeah. I think there's a couple things here. So you committed last night to running the cotton candy.
Yes.
And you fulfilled your commitment. And it was not as fun as you thought it was. Cotton candy
Yeah.
does sound fun. It's fluffy and sugary. It should be fun.
It was fun near the end, but like,
Did you start to get it near the end?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
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 But you don't want to be a cotton candy runner at carnivals for the rest of your life.
Maybe not.
So it sounds like you accomplished your goal and it just wasn't as fun at the beginning, but you worked through it and you accomplished it. And you kind of went on that slump, right? Like, here's the cotton candy machine. I'm so excited. This is not actually fun. I'm going to push through. And it ended up okay. And then you realize that don't volunteer for the cotton candy next time. And I think that's okay with goals to do that. I think setting goals is a learning experience. And we set goals that are way too big and maybe goals that are way too small, which is why it's okay to constantly reevaluate them. A good goal has steps to accomplish the goal. Here's the big goal that I want to accomplish, and here's the steps I'm going to take to do them. We want cotton candy, so we need to rent the machine, and we need to watch a YouTube video on how to make cotton candy. And
the YouTube video screwed me over. Don't look it up.
I went in there and was like, Ava, stop doing this. Do this instead. And it was just fine after that.
So don't watch the YouTube video. Do a couple trials and errors, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of have steps on how to do it. And part of the learning process is just being okay to fail sometimes.
Mhm.
I'm glad you brought up the carnival, though, because I think the cabinet has showed us some good goal setting just with Penny Wars in the last couple weeks and month. There's a goal of how much we want to raise. And you guys have done a lot of different things to raise that money, and you've motivated the students or scholars, and you've done events and you did Sadies, and there's been some things that didn't work. Some things have been canceled, or some things like just didn't work out, or maybe there's part of the carnival that didn't get in, but a lot of things worked and a lot of things you learned in the long run, and hopefully we meet the goal. But if we don't meet the financial goal that we set, we still did a lot of really good things and learned a lot in the process, and that's part of the purpose of setting a goal, is doing the good things along the way. Because if we set a goal, we never really truly fail, even if we don't reach what we thought we were going to reach. And sometimes when we set a goal, what we think we want to reach changes in the accomplishing of the goal.
That's really interesting. Because going back to the cotton candy, very passionate about it. I think part of the reason I was so upset was because near the end, I was having fun. I did like doing it, but the machine is gone. We rented the machine and I no longer have the cotton candy machine. And so I can't sit and practice and get good at it. and like, how do I deal with that? How do I deal with like the disappointment? Like, why didn't I start practicing better technique earlier? Or like, why wasn't I just better while I had the opportunity?
Well, that's interesting because sometimes we get so focused on like, why didn't I do this thing? And why am I not better? Why am I not to the point I want to be at? And I think it's okay. Like, if you set goals higher than you're going to meet, you're still going to be farther than if you hadn't set the goal anyway. So it's the point of us actually wanting to be better and actually trying to be a better person and trying to become better at the skills that we want to be better at. And sometimes we're disappointed in ourselves. And I think we need to get over that, get over the disappointment and be like, I did the best I can. Well, if you did the best you can, you'd say, I did the best I can, and then move forward, set a new goal, even higher than the last one, and then just become better from there. So
I totally agree. That was very wise. Very well said.
Something that I think is hard is when we don't get to the goals that we thought we would get to, it's really hard to like be okay with that. And I don't know where to go. And sometimes it hurts.
Or like a missed opportunity.
Right. And you had the chance. And if you were just a little bit better, or if you had done something just a little bit differently, that goal might have been met, but it didn't. How do you get around that? Like, how do you get past that to keep moving forward and to set a new goal? How do you stop dwelling on the pain of not accomplishing that goal and move on?
I feel that all the time.
I think you said it though. Dwelling in the pain. And what's the purpose of pain?
That is a good question. I wonder that a lot. I've dealt with like grief and loss in the past year, and I'm like, why is this happening? Why can't I just like not get over it? Or there's a story. I don't remember where it's from. I think it was probably some general conference or something. For those of you who do listen to general conference, this man's young son died, and he was just grieving, and it was just awful. And he was just praying. He's like, why can't this pain go away? Like it's been a little while. Like, why can I just stop being so terribly depressed and sad and missing my son and grieving? And then the thought came to his head. It's like, okay, but if you were to no longer have grief, you would lose every memory of your son you had with him. And that's something that I've been learning too, is like with my own loss and grief, like, yeah, it hurts and it's confusing and it brings a lot of like anxiety and other problems. But like if it were to just go away, I would miss all the love I felt for that person, or all the time and memories and things I spent putting into like a relationship with them. And so I think that can be like translated over to like when you fail or you're upset with yourself for missing an opportunity. Yeah, the pain sucks. And like you can't get out of your head of like, why didn't I do it? But you have to remember like why you're feeling that way, because yeah, you didn't realize in the moment that that's something you wanted or something that you needed. Yeah, those bad feelings because you weren't serious enough about something, or you take responsibility when you needed to, or pursue your education when you needed to. Those bad feelings that you're experiencing are a lesson, and they're a reminder that it was something you maybe needed to do, or something that you need to continue to do or search for. Like, yeah, you missed it now, so don't do it in the future. Like, it's just a learning experience. How do you take the lesson from that and deal with the pain and not just like focus on it, because it's so prevalent all the time?
For me, I feel like that's one of the signs of a strong character, right? We can take pain and we can wallow, or we can sink in it, or we can use it as like a trampoline to jump to something higher and make our pain useful instead of something that hurts us, even though it is uncomfortable to go through the pain.
But what if you're not a strong person? Like, what if you're the weakest person alive and you like anything inconvenient happens and you're just like dying inside? You're like, ah, you're like, I feel like there has to be a decision to actually want to move forward. And there has to be some sort of inspiration to keep you going through that pain. I'm thinking a lot about Lewis's Grief Observed. He didn't want what his father gave to him for his kids. He wanted to give them a better life. And that helped him push through his grief and to inspire him to be a stronger person and to be a better father and to be just better in general, to be happier and to be able to set new goals and move forward. And I think that's important.
It comes down to a lot of responsibility, because like I've seen people who, maybe didn't have the best like upbringing or life, and they're like, I don't want that for my kids. And then they go through something similar that their parents went through, and then they become like their parents, like, because that's like the opposite end of what you were just talking about. So it really just comes down to like, how responsible are you going to be? Like how much oh, what's the word? Where you like take responsibility for your actions, like where you're honest about who you are. Integrity. Yeah, like it's hard though, because like it sucks realizing that you're not a good person or you're not the person that you want to be, that you think you are. That's what hurts, like to realize that like you've hurt a lot of people or that you're continuing to hurt a lot of people through your actions. And like, how do you even like start doing like fixing
Right.
that?
Yeah. Like how? Yeah. I don't know.
Painful to be honest with yourself about yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
But what I loved about your story, Daniel, is there seemed like there was a moment when he made a decision.
Right.
And that was a pretty big life experience that hopefully only happened once in his life. But we could make small decisions like that every single day in the small things that we do. Like with the cotton candy, or with, you know, deciding I'm going to practice today, even if I have to feed myself goldfish every 3 times or something like that.
I'm just grateful that like I'm kind of young, because like I feel like it's a lot easier to get these goals going and get started before I've fully like developed into a full-blown psychopath. Like, you know.
I really agree. I had an interesting experience a couple years ago. I turned a significant age, and
Significant. Implying like 50, 60.
Let's go with 19.
Okay.
No, I turned 30. That's important for the story, so I'll just say it. And one of my friends from high school posted on Facebook a long list of things he'd accomplished in his 30s. And I immediately started thinking about what he'd accomplished in his 20s. And I started thinking about what I'd accomplished. And the thing that immediately just came into my mind was how grateful I was that I'd established habits in my life. And these are habits that were really established during my 20s, but started way back in high school and junior high. Things like I turn in assignments on time, or I get places early, or even simple like I make my bed every morning. Every single morning I make my bed. It just makes me feel good. And those habits, I was so grateful that I'd created those during my 20s. And I could list a long list of like resume, you know, cool things that I did during my 20s that might sound like really impressive, or, you know, like I did a lot of things. But the things I'm most grateful for that have blessed me the most are the habits. And when I really think about it, the habits that I created are what made it so the big things got done. And I think that just comes back down to daily decisions, right? Do I decide to sit here and feel bad that I didn't do what I know is my best? Or do I say, I guess I'm human. I'm grateful because I get to try again right now on this next assignment or experience or relationship or whatever it is.
I like what you said about like establishing these small habits ensured that the big things get done. I don't know. I just like that. Like you don't have to set like big goals. Like it can be like a short-term goal. And that short-term goal can help.
It's like carving at a statue. Like you can't cut it in half and expect to still have the whole thing. You have to be able to chip away at the statue until you get what you need, right? And so to get the bigger picture, you definitely need those smaller accomplishments.
I love that. I love that you bring up the statue. Oh, I was just thinking, because we talked a little earlier about how sometimes we set goals and we're really disappointed. And I feel like sometimes those are those really big goals. I want to accomplish this huge thing. But maybe if we focused on setting the smaller goals of the daily things we want to do and become, those are things that we feel more successful with.
I'm a religious person, so I'm gonna like talk about my experience with God recently. And like, if you don't believe in God, that's fine. Like it's just my personal experience, you know. I had set a goal that I was going to read at least 5 verses of my scriptures every day. And I was expecting what everybody else said was going to happen. Like, oh, everything will be so much greater because you're reading your scriptures.
It's not.
It's not.
Sometimes it gets worse.
It got worse.
It
That's what
does.
happened. It straight up got worse. I was having more doubt. I felt more spiritually vulnerable. I was having more questions, and I was like, this sucks. But I continued to read every single day. I continued to push forward, even though I was doing terribly. Then I had another bout with anxiety. Woo, love it, right? Also another goal I've been working on, taking my meds every day.
That is a good goal.
It's a good goal because it builds up in your system, takes like 3 weeks, but it helps. Anyway, back to the original story. I was having a really, really bad bout of anxiety. I was having a lot of panic attacks. I couldn't eat. I lost 6 pounds in 4 days. It was bad. I was just so anxious. But the only thing in that anxiety that brought me peace was, guess what? Reading my scriptures. Amazing, right? And through that, spiritually, I grew stronger. And so what I realized is I set this goal. It kind of sucked a little bit. Like I was uncomfortable for a little while, but I trusted in the goal. I knew that a good outcome would happen if I continued to work on it, and it did. And then that changed my outlook on the goal. Like now when I have the same kind of like doubts or bad feelings, I remember, oh, but look what it did for me here.
I think you've just given us a really good model for setting goals, right? We set a goal and we have to really believe that we're going to get something out of it and then push through that moment. And then when we get something out of it, we don't have to rely on just like hoping or knowing or having faith that we're going to get something. And now we have a knowledge to rely back on, and we can set a harder goal, right? And then you keep on doing that. And by the time you're 30, it's not even going to be a question anymore, right? It's just going to be a goal. And you can do that with anything.
Is the point of working hard and having a goal just to get something out of it? Because that feels so, I don't
Shallow.
know. Yeah. If you do something just to get something out of it, there's not really a point in doing it. I guess there is, because you get something out of it, but it seems selfish.
No,
and
that like makes sense when like
Right.
somebody's your friend just because they like you and then they stop liking you and then they stop talking to you.
Right.
What the heck? Come on. You've like established a relationship and didn't get what you want, so you
Right.
left. Anyway, not passionate about that at all.
You're very passionate about
A
that.
little bit.
I think it depends what you're trying to get. You're reminding me of Aristotle,
Mhm.
chapter 8. Is that
Sure.
the chapter? Friendship chapter?
I think it's 6.
Oh, 6. There you go.
Ah, yes.
Yes.
Chapter 6.
Oh, it's from Nicomachean Ethics. And
Mm.
Aristotle talks about friendship. And I made Daniel read it a couple weeks ago. And
Yes, she did.
we had a great discussion on that.
Yes.
We should talk about that
We
more.
did?
Yeah. And you talked about Cicero and we drew pictures.
Right.
And the board? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so going back, just to explain a little bit. So there's 3 different kinds of friendships, and we don't want a friendship where people just want something from us, right? We want a friendship where like we feel better after being with someone and we
Right.
feel more complete and more whole. And it's interesting because at the first chapter of Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle talks about how we all just want to be happy, right? And that as long as we're seeking for happiness, we never find happiness. But as soon as we seek virtue and try to become the best us, that's where we find happiness, but we're not seeking happiness. And so going back to the goals, I wonder if it just depends what we're trying to get out of it, right? If we are setting goals because of virtue, I set this goal because I want to be a better person, that's what I get out of it, then, and that's what we're defining as getting out of it, then maybe it's okay.
Right.
I think like getting out of it, like obviously you have an expectation in mind, but also my therapist, my counselor, that I've been meeting with occasionally, she tells me that unhappiness comes from unmet expectations or when expectations are unexpected. So like if you set a very, very strict expectation for what's going to happen, like from the outcome of your goal, you're going to be unhappy.
Right.
But if you have, maybe a more broad idea or you have a larger outcome in mind than something super small or particular, then maybe you'll be more happy with it,
Yeah. I'm just thinking about virtue and goals. I competed in a concerto competition with the Shostakovich cello concerto, which we all know how much I love Shostakovich.
We all love Shostakovich.
Because he's amazing.
What a man.
He's all right.
He's amazing.
Don't, Daniel.
He's all
please.
right.
I can't do
I
this
feel like he's
today.
You
an,
can
on a
just-
man level, he's average.
No.
He was pretty-
He
as a
is
composer.
wonderful.
He was amazing.
See how many wives he has? That man could be.
Sheesh, was that
Good.
circumstance or
No, that was a rough
Well,
love
probably
life.
because it kept dying.
how many wives
No,
he
he
had?
had a lot of failed romances.
The
Okay.
definition of a
Didn't
man
most
is
of
how
them
many
die,
wives
though?
he has.
I think he got divorced. Anyways, I was playing Shostakovich and it was my senior year and I really thought I had a good chance of winning. And I wanted to win because you got to solo with the orchestra and I'd worked really hard, really diligently for quite a few years. And there was this moment I was in my practice room just moments before going on, maybe hours, practicing, just diligently practicing all day. I had a Reese's in my backpack I was allowed to eat after the competition. I was so excited. And I sat down and realized, okay, you have done everything you could do. Like you have done the very best you know how. And at this point, you can't do anything else because someone else is going to decide your fate. There's nothing else I can do to decide this goal, right? I cannot will myself to win. And I had a good friend at the moment who was struggling with something. And I said, okay, I will play this piece for him so that I will put what I believe into the piece so that he can be healed and put that in for this higher meaning to share these strong beliefs that I have with the audience and with my friend. And I'm not going to worry about winning or doing my best anymore. I'm just going to worry about expressing. I didn't win. It was kind of a weird competition, but it's one of my favorite musical memories because I learned so much about preparation and goals, and I gained so much. I gained virtue, even though the result was not what I'd expected. And similar to that time was when I was auditioning for the orchestra at Temple Square. And again, I just practiced so hard. And it was such a weird thing to audition for because I was auditioning for a spot in an orchestra that I was going to serve people by being in. And usually that's not something you audition for. I really wanted it. I really, really wanted it. And there was just a moment when I said, okay, I told God, if this is what you want me to do, I have done everything. I will try my hardest as I play in the orchestra to give all glory to thee, but I know that it's in your hands. And that one I did make it into. And that's a goal that I'm so grateful that I stopped the goal at that moment before I auditioned because it's actually made my experience in the orchestra be better. It's something I keep on going back to.
That's awesome. And that going back to something you said a while ago is like, what's the point of doing something halfway? And I think that goal of winning would have been a halfway kind of goal because yeah, it's winning, but it's not fulfilling you as a person. It's just getting through that moment and it's not lasting after that. Like you have it on a resume, but what does it mean to you after that? Right.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe that's part of the point of setting goals is that then our goals as we work towards them teach us what we really should have set the goal to be.
Interesting. It's almost like you live and you learn.
What?
If you could have the listeners today take away one thing from our discussion, what would it be? Ideally.
I would probably say that there is value to hard work. There is value to setting goals that stretch us. And the value is that as we do those, we become our better selves. We bring out the nobility in us. And that is sometimes hard and it is sometimes painful and it sometimes takes a lot of effort, and that is okay because it's a joyful journey.
Yeah.
That seems to me to be the mindset of a scholar and like what a scholar should be.
Thank you guys for listening to our conversation today. Don't forget to follow us at The Paradigm Pod on Instagram.
And if you have any suggestions or things you want us to talk about, email us at podcast@paradigmhigh.org.
We appreciate your guys' support so much. So if you could leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, that helps us so much. Yeah, thank you guys for listening.
And keep engaging in the great conversation.